So in this next section of the paper, it says, describe what is meant by the terms software and application software. Where I've marked these questions before, a lot of people are very vague when they answer these questions. They say software runs on the PC. That's too vague. You need to be very specific about this, all right? So, you've got system software and application software. Remember, the key difference is that system software is to do with the upkeep, the running of the machine, whereas application software is software that is for a user to for a user to actually do a front-end task. That's the word, sorry. So, system software, all right, manages the upkeep of the computer. It manages the operation of the computer. It also controls how the hardware works. So think about it, you've got device managers. That's the sort of thing you're thinking about there. Disk defrag, that's a system tool that you would use, all right? So system software is to do with the upkeep and maintenance of your machine. Whereas application software is in charge, is used for front-end user tasks. I'm underlining that because you need to memorize that. Front-end user tasks. If you get this as a 2 marker, such as word processing. Such as word processing. You might even have such as spreadsheets, such as presentations, such as image editing. There are so many variations, but you've got to make sure you can differentiate between application software and system software. Now, the operating system is a weaker area for many, and we need to make sure that we go over the operating system fully. The operating system has more than 4 functions, if I'm honest, all right? It has probably 7 or 8. But the common ones that we use are memory management, think about it, the operating system has to be able to allocate different, and you may get a descriptive version of this question, you have to be able to allocate memory to specific applications and specific instructions that you're working on. You've also got process management. Think about it. When you press Control and Delete on a Windows PC, it brings up all of those tasks that are taking up all of your RAM. Well, the operating system's job is to make sure that you have enough room in your processor to actually get through those tasks, okay? So it allocates you time to do those. We've got I/O management. That's your inputs and outputs. Think about it. Your operating system controls the hardware on your computer. Without the operating system, a lot of the time you find that your keyboard doesn't work, your mouse doesn't work. When you get a new graphics card, it's all to do with your input-output management. Security. File storage. Network management. I've not said application management yet either. Application management as well.
Jacob in here. Jacob, please the Alvarez. Okay, cheers.
Application management. All right. Now, I'm not going to go on to the next question in a lot of detail, but I am going to go over the mark scheme because you would structure your answer in such a way. That's only a small one, so you can watch this video back. But autonomous vehicle is controlled by a computer system. It senses its environment and requires no input from the human driver. Discuss the legal, ethical impacts, the need to be considered when replacing manual with human-driven vehicles. So you're really thinking about what's going on with everything around you. Now, these questions come up in the OCR and they come up in the AQA. But here's an example of the mark scheme. But what I want you to notice here is it says in this question, legal and ethical, all right? In some of the questions where they are 9 marks up, it will say legal, ethical, and environmental, okay? So when you have 2 areas, that's 2 well-developed paragraphs. Where you have 3, that's 3 developed paragraphs. Make your point, give some evidence, examples, and explain how that all works together. But let's have a look at some of the key points around ethical issues of driverless cars. You have to trust the driver, all right? When it's a computer, you're trusting the algorithm. So there's an element of trust there that you need to discuss. Decision making. The car's going to have to make human-like decisions. What happens if it goes into somebody? Is it going to go into one person, or is it going to go into a group of 5? You're trusting the car to make that decision there. All right? Safe driving. Yes, autonomous vehicles could be programmed to drive safe, but if they're on the road of manual drivers, it doesn't mean that the drivers around them are safe. You really have to think about how autonomous driving is only going to work when all cars do it. In my opinion, the only way we could ever get driverless cars working is by having, say, sections of a city that are all driverless cars, because then all cars are connected, you know. Whereas when you've got a hybrid mode where some of them are driverless and some of them aren't, you kind of got an issue there because you're hoping that the actual manual drivers are going to be safe. Data collection, you've got privacy there. What if it's collecting information about the person that is sat in the car, their personal information, who's booked the driverless car? Job opportunities, taxi drivers losing their jobs, that's an ethical issue. Whenever you're thinking about job security, there are always ethical issues there. Accessibility, all right? Disabled passengers will not have to operate traditional cars. So that's a good point. That's like if there's a disabled person and they're not able to drive a car, like think about amputees. They may not be able to use pedals in the car, so you've got a driverless car that can get them from A to B. Now we've got legal impacts here. Liability. Who is at fault when something goes wrong? Who is at fault? Think about it. Is it the person that's programmed the algorithm? Or is it the person who was in the car? Is it the person that's booked it? There's a discussion to be had there. Insurance companies, all right, they may not want to change their premiums and so on because you're paying car insurance for a car that's driving itself. So who's responsible there? It's a grey area. Keeping your data secure in the car. There's a security issue. Now that cars are getting more Bluetooth in it, so not an issue that hackers are actually able to access that Bluetooth connection to manipulate your car into doing something that it shouldn't do. You've got law updates. The driving laws, they're going to need to be updated because, you know, we're currently responsible for our actions in the car, but where's the grey area when we move to driverless cars? Who's in charge of that? Have the DVLA updated that? So it is a discussion point to be had. But if you look here, you need to have discussed both legal and ethical impacts, all right, of the increased autonomous vehicles. Notice it says discuss. Discussion to me is showing that you understand the pros and the cons. You're having a discussion with yourself. oh, on one hand I think this, but actually I think this as well. That's a discussion, not just going all for the positive. Make your view balanced. Okay? So that is question 5.